Ethan Cole stepped off the transport and looked around the shipyard. It was huge, bigger than any human station he had ever seen. The walls glowed with soft lights, and ships of all shapes and sizes were docked in long rows. Aliens of many kinds moved around him. Some had scales, some had fur, and some had shining skin that reflected the lights like mirrors. They were all busy building weapons, checking tools, or discussing strategies in languages Ethan could not understand. He carried his toolkit carefully. Humans were few on this station, and most aliens thought they were weak. Humans did not have the size or strength of the other species. But they had something the aliens often forgot: ideas. Ethan had spent years learning how to think differently, how to solve problems that seemed impossible. Today would test that. The Alien Council had gathered for the announcement. Ethan walked with the other human engineers toward the center of the yard. High above them, a platform held several leaders. Their eyes were sharp, their expressions serious. They were here for one reason: to prepare for the upcoming war. A tall alien with dark green skin stepped forward. He was called Varkon, the leader of the council. His voice echoed across the shipyard in a strange, rough tone. But a translation device made it easy for Ethan to understand. "Engineers of all species," Varkon said. "The war approaches. You will build the weapons we need. You will make swords, energy blades, that can cut through any armor. Each of you must follow the plans. No mistakes will be allowed. The strongest will survive. The weak will be left behind." The aliens around Ethan cheered, clapping their claws or hitting metal surfaces. Humans were quiet. Building swords was simple for the aliens. Their bodies were made for combat. Humans had to think differently. Ethan opened the plans he had been given. The lines were sharp and clean, showing a long, glowing blade with a handle made of strong alloys. He studied it carefully, then frowned. The sword looked powerful, yes, but it had one weakness. Any warrior using it had to attack alone. If surrounded, the sword could not protect the wielder. Ethan tapped his fingers on the table, thinking. He looked at his colleagues. Most of the human engineers were nodding and starting to gather materials. But Ethan stayed back, drawing in his notebook. He sketched something completely different. It was not a sword. It was wide, flat, and looked heavy, but he added lines showing energy flowing along its edges. A shield that could stop attacks, protect others, and even push back enemies. Lyra, a reptilian alien with orange scales and sharp eyes, leaned over his shoulder. "What are you doing, human?" she hissed. "We were told to build swords. Why do you waste time with this thing?" Ethan did not look up. "I am thinking," he said. "Why assume a sword is the only way to fight? Defense can be as strong as attack, sometimes stronger." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Humans always ask why. Always question orders. This is not your way. You will fail if you do not follow us." Ethan smiled slightly. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe I will find a way no one else can." He began gathering the materials he would need. The shield had to be made carefully. It was not just metal. It needed energy conduits, reflective panels, and stabilizers to absorb impacts. Most humans would have stopped and followed the sword plan, but Ethan worked quickly and confidently. Other aliens were already at work on their swords. Sparks flew, energy beams hummed, and the air smelled of hot metal. Jarek, a giant with 4 arms and gray skin, grunted as he lifted a sword handle. "You humans are slow," he said. "You think too much. You cannot build what we build in a day." Ethan nodded. "I am aware," he said calmly. "But I am not building what you are building. I am building something else." Jarek snorted and walked away. Lyra stayed, watching every move Ethan made. She did not understand humans, but she was curious. This human did not panic under pressure. He did not rush blindly. He thought. Hours passed. Ethan worked carefully, fitting panels together, connecting energy channels, and testing small sections. Each step was precise. Some aliens glanced over, laughing at how slow he seemed, but Ethan ignored them. He had a plan, and he trusted it. By evening, the shield began to take shape. It was large, wider than a human could easily carry, but it was balanced and strong. He added a mechanism that could absorb energy from an attack and store it temporarily. Then, with a simple push of a button, it could release the energy in a controlled burst. He tested it on a small drone, and the blast sent it flying across the yard. Lyra stepped back, impressed despite herself. "It works," she whispered. "But why make a shield? It is not a weapon." Ethan smiled faintly. "It is a weapon," he said. "It just works differently. Sometimes protecting people is the strongest attack." The council noticed the human's unusual creation. Varkon himself descended from the platform, walking slowly toward Ethan. His heavy boots echoed on the metal floor. "What is this?" he demanded. "You were told to make a sword. This is useless." Ethan stood straight. "It is not useless," he said. "It protects. It can defend many at once, and it can strike back. I ask only this. Let me test it." Varkon glared at him. The other aliens whispered among themselves. No human had ever dared question an order in front of the council. To do so was dangerous. But Ethan did not show fear. "Test it," Varkon said finally, after a long pause. "If it fails, you and your people will be blamed. If it works, maybe there is something humans can teach us." Ethan nodded. He moved the shield to the center of the yard, where a training area had been set up. Aliens lined up with their swords, ready to strike. Humans watched nervously from behind. Ethan adjusted the shield, bracing it with both hands. He felt the hum of energy flowing through it, ready to absorb and release. Lyra watched silently. Jarek grunted, but kept his distance. Everyone waited to see what the human would do. Ethan took a deep breath. "I do not fight to be strong," he said quietly. "I fight to survive and to protect those who cannot." With that, the first alien swung a sword. The shield absorbed the strike with a loud hum, and a small pulse of energy pushed the alien backward. Another alien attacked, and the shield held again. Ethan moved with it, turning, adjusting, and blocking multiple strikes. Sparks flew, lights flashed, and for the first time, some aliens stopped to watch carefully. Lyra's eyes widened. "He is different," she whispered. "Not like the others. He thinks, not just fights." The council remained silent, observing. Varkon's face was unreadable, but one thing was clear. The human had not failed. In fact, he had done something no alien had expected. Ethan lowered the shield slightly, breathing heavily but smiling. He looked at the council and said, "Sometimes, the strongest attack is a strong defense. And sometimes, the best way to survive is to question what everyone thinks is true." The aliens whispered among themselves. Some were angry. Some were curious. But no one could deny that the human had done something remarkable. For the first time, humans on the station felt a spark of respect. Maybe, just maybe, being small and weak was not a weakness at all. Maybe thinking differently could change everything. And Ethan knew this was only the beginning. After the first test, the aliens could not stop talking about the human's shield. Some were impressed, others angry, but everyone was curious. Ethan moved quietly through the shipyard, carrying the shield carefully. He had work to do. The first test had been small, and now he needed to prepare for a bigger demonstration. Lyra followed him. She did not speak at first, only watched him assemble parts and check the energy channels. "You know," she said finally. Most humans would have given up after the council yelled at them. You keep going." Ethan looked at her calmly. "Giving up is easy. Anyone can do that. But I want to see if this can really work. If it can, maybe humans can help more than you think." End quote. Lyra nodded slowly. "I still do not understand why you fight this way. Aliens fight to attack. You protect. Sometimes protecting is stronger," Ethan said. "If you lose everyone, attacking does not matter. You survive first, then win." Other human engineers gathered around, whispering to each other. "Do you think it will work?" one asked. Ethan smiled. "It has to, but we need to test it more." The next day, the council called all engineers to the main testing field. Aliens had set up targets, dummies, and moving obstacles. They wanted to see if the human's shield could survive multiple attacks at once. Varkon walked slowly to the center, his expression dark. "The human thinks he can change the rules," he said to the crowd. "He will show us today, if he is brave or foolish." Ethan stepped forward, carrying the shield with both hands. Humans and a few smaller aliens moved behind him for safety. Lyra and Jarek stood at the sides, watching closely. "Attack," Varkon commanded. A group of aliens rushed forward with their swords glowing bright. They swung and struck the shield, but it absorbed every hit. Sparks flew, and energy crackled along its edges. Ethan moved the shield carefully, shifting left and right, up and down. Each strike pushed back slightly, giving him control over the energy flow. The other aliens gasped. They had never seen a human handle so much power. Some had assumed humans were weak and useless in battle. Now, their assumptions were being challenged. Jarek stepped forward, his 4 arms swinging a massive sword. He hit the shield hard. The energy absorbed the strike and pushed back, sending him a few steps backward. He looked shocked. How does it do that?" he asked. Ethan did not answer. He focused on blocking the next attack, twisting his body, and moving carefully. Each movement showed thought, not force. Humans were small, but their brains could match or even surpass the strength of much larger creatures. Lyra stepped closer. "This is incredible," she whispered. "I cannot believe it holds." The attacks continued. Aliens tried to surround him, but the shield's wide surface kept everyone protected. Ethan could even deflect some attacks toward the moving dummies, making them fall over. Slowly, the other engineers began to understand. This was not just a shield. It was a new way of fighting, something they had never imagined. Varkon frowned, clearly annoyed. "The human survives," he muttered. "But survival is not victory. You may have blocked these attacks, but could you do it in real combat? Could you protect others?" Ethan took a deep breath and smiled. He stepped back, then held the shield high. He called to the humans and smaller aliens behind him. "Follow me!" he shouted. They moved forward, forming a line behind the shield. Ethan led the way, using the shield to absorb attacks, while the others followed safely. When an alien tried to swing around to strike, Ethan rotated the shield, blocking the strike and pushing the attacker back. The demonstration lasted several minutes. The council watched quietly, their eyes fixed on the human and his creation. Ethan moved with precision and time, thinking faster than the aliens could. For every attack, he had an answer. For every strategy, he had a counter. When it ended, the field was quiet. The aliens were shocked. No human had ever survived so many attacks without injury. The shield had held perfectly, protecting not only Ethan, but everyone behind him. Lyra stepped forward, her scales glinting in the light. I was wrong to doubt you," she said softly. "You do not fight like anyone else. But it works." Ethan nodded. "It is not about fighting like everyone else. It is about thinking differently. Sometimes rules are just assumptions, waiting to be questioned." Varkan stared at him, his face unreadable. Then he spoke slowly. "You have shown strength no one expected. Humans, maybe there is more to you than I thought." Some aliens still whispered angrily. They did not like being proven wrong, but a few looked thoughtful. They had seen the human think, survive, and lead. They had seen that humans were unpredictable, clever, and willing to challenge tradition. Ethan moved the shield aside and began checking it again. Some parts needed adjustment. The energy conduits were strong, but he wanted to make them even better. As he worked, Lyra stayed close, watching and asking questions. "How did you think of this?" she asked. Ethan shrugged. "I did not follow what others do. I looked at the problem and asked what is really needed. Survival first, attack second. Protect more than just yourself." The other humans began helping him. They added small improvements, tightened bolts, and tested energy flow. The aliens, curious now, began to step closer. Some touched the shield carefully, testing its weight and balance. By the evening, the shield was stronger than before. Ethan felt confident that it could hold against even larger attacks. He looked at the field and thought about the coming war. Humans might be small and weak physically, but their minds could make them strong, stronger than anyone expected. Lyra spoke again. "Do you think the council will accept it?" she asked. Ethan smiled faintly. "They will have no choice," he said. "Once they see it in real combat, they will understand. Humans fight differently, but that difference can win battles." Jarek grunted. "I do not like it," he said. "It is strange, but it works. I will admit that." For the first time, Ethan felt a small victory. The shield was more than just metal and energy. It was proof that humans could think, survive, and lead in ways no alien expected. And he knew this was only the beginning. The war would come soon, and when it did, humans would show their strength in ways the galaxy had never imagined. The next morning, the shipyard was buzzing with energy. Aliens were everywhere, preparing for another test. This time, it would not be a small demonstration. The council wanted to see the shield in action against a full team of attackers. Ethan arrived early, carrying the shield, and began checking every part. Energy conduits were flowing correctly, stabilizers were tight, and the balance felt perfect. Humans and smaller aliens gathered behind him, waiting. They trusted Ethan now. They had seen what he could do, and they were willing to follow. Lyra stood near the edge, her eyes scanning the yard. Even she was curious how this demonstration would turn out. Jarek stomped across the field, carrying two massive swords. "I still do not like this," he growled. "But I admit, it is interesting. If you fail, it will be a lesson for all humans." Ethan nodded. "Then we will succeed," he said calmly. "We do not fight the way others expect, but we fight smart. R. 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 We fight smart." Varkan, the council leader, stepped forward with several other alien commanders. "This is your last chance, human," he said. "Show us that your shield is more than a toy. If it fails, you will answer for it." Ethan did not flinch. "I understand," he replied, "but I think you will see something new today." In 10, the attackers lined up. Aliens from different species formed a circle around Ethan. Their energy swords glowed brightly, hums filling the air. Ethan raised the shield and signaled the humans and small aliens behind him to move into position. They formed a line behind the shield, trusting him completely. The first attack came fast. Aliens lunged forward, swinging swords and shooting energy blasts. The shield absorbed the hits, the hum of energy loud and steady. Ethan moved carefully, rotating the shield to protect each side, guiding his group like a captain steering a ship through a storm. Aliens had expected humans to panic, to break formation, or to fall back. But the human line stayed strong. The shield held, pushing back attacks and keeping everyone safe. Some of the attacking aliens stumbled, not expecting the shield to withstand multiple strikes. Lyra watched closely. He is not just defending, she said to herself. He is controlling the battlefield. Ethan saw an opening. Some attackers were too close to each other, trying to surround his group. He rotated the shield sharply, releasing a burst of energy stored from previous hits. The wave knocked several attackers backward. Sparks flew, and the aliens scrambled to regain balance. The humans behind the shield cheered quietly. They had never felt so protected. They moved in step with Ethan, following his lead. What seemed like chaos to the aliens was actually careful strategy. Each movement of the shield was calculated, using the attacker's own energy against them. Jarek raised his swords, trying to test the shield directly. He hit hard, but the energy absorbed the strike and pushed back with equal force. He stumbled again. "I do not understand it," he muttered. "It should not be possible." Lyra stepped closer to the edge of the battlefield. "It is human thinking," she whispered. "They see problems differently. They do not just attack, they solve the battle." The council watched silently. No one spoke, though many were whispering among themselves. Humans were not supposed to challenge the traditional ways of fighting. They were supposed to be weak and follow orders. Yet here they were, controlling the flow of battle, with something no alien had thought of before. The attackers regrouped and tried a new tactic. Some climbed higher platforms to strike from above. Others used long-range energy beams. Ethan adjusted immediately. He tilted the shield upward, blocking attacks from above while still protecting the humans behind him. He directed small bursts to push attackers off balance, keeping them from coordinating. Lyra took a step closer, astonished. "No one else would think of this," she said. "No alien would use defense to attack. Only humans. Only humans." After several minutes, the attackers were exhausted. Their swords were glowing hot, energy depleted, and they could not penetrate the shield. Ethan led his team forward carefully, moving like a wave. Every attack was absorbed. Every counter was precise. The attackers were forced to retreat, retreating faster than they had expected. Varkon's eyes narrowed. He did not speak, but a small nod showed that he was impressed despite himself. Humans had survived, protected their allies, and turned the battle around, without even swinging a sword. Jarek shook his head. "This is more than strength," he said quietly. "It is thinking. Humans fight with their minds." Ethan lowered the shield slightly, breathing steadily. "Strength is not enough," he said. "You must think, adapt, and protect. That is how humans survive." Some aliens began to approach him, cautiously. They wanted to touch the shield, examine it, and understand it. None of them had expected a human to create something so clever. The traditional ways of war were being challenged, and it made some uncomfortable. But it also made them curious. Lyra stepped forward and laid a clawed hand on the edge of the shield. "I still do not understand all of it," she admitted. "But I see that it works. Humans. Maybe they are stronger than we thought, in ways we cannot measure." The council was silent. Varkon studied Ethan carefully, his expression unreadable. "You have changed our thinking today," he said finally. "Humans are not the same as we assumed. You survive not because of strength, but because of creativity." Ethan nodded, keeping his attention on the shield. "Creativity and thinking differently can win battles," he said. "Sometimes, protecting your allies is stronger than attacking blindly." For the first time, humans on the shipyard felt a deep sense of respect. They had followed Ethan's lead and seen the result. Their small size and weakness in the eyes of the aliens no longer mattered. The shield had proven that humans could change the rules of war. Jarek stepped closer, examining the shield closely. "It is heavy," he said, "but balanced. I admit, this is more than I expected." Lyra smiled faintly. "You may be the first human I truly respect," she said. "Your thinking, it is strange, but powerful." Ethan lowered the shield completely and nodded to them. "It is not about power alone," he said. "It is about using what you have, thinking fast, and protecting those who need it. That is what humans do." Junhar, 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 Junhar. The day ended with quiet murmurs from the council and whispers from the aliens. Humans had survived and impressed everyone. The shield was more than just metal. It was proof that thinking differently could change everything. Ethan looked at the field one last time, breathing slowly. The coming war would be dangerous, but he felt ready. Humans were small, yes, but their minds could make them strong. Smarter, faster, and more unpredictable than anyone expected. And Ethan knew the shield was only the beginning. The warning came early. Sensors on the station picked up a large fleet approaching the outpost. Alien ships from a hostile faction were coming fast. Their weapons charged and ready. Alarm sirens echoed through the corridors. Humans and aliens alike ran to their stations, checking weapons and preparing for battle. Ethan Cole stood with his shield ready. He had practiced and tested it countless times, but this was real. This was not a training field or a council demonstration. Lives would depend on him, and the shield had to perform perfectly. Humans and smaller aliens gathered behind him, ready to follow. He looked at each of them and nodded. "Stay close. Move as I move. And trust the shield," he said calmly. "We can survive this if we work together." Lyra and Jarek approached. Lyra's orange scales shimmered in the warning lights. "You really think this shield can hold against real war?" she asked quietly. Ethan nodded. "It has to," he said. "The humans survive because we think differently. The shield will protect us, and we will use it to fight smart, not just hard." The enemy fleet arrived moments later, dropping troops to the outpost. Waves of aliens with energy swords rushed forward. They were fast, strong, and well-trained. Most of the station's defenders fired their weapons, but the attackers moved with a strange coordination. The humans behind Ethan were nervous, but they trusted him. Ethan raised the shield and moved forward. The first strikes came fast. Energy swords clashed against the shield, sparks flying as it absorbed the hits. Aliens tried to surround him, but Ethan rotated and shifted, blocking each attack. Humans behind him moved in step. Following his lead, Jarek swung a sword at one of the attackers who had come close. Ethan used the shield to deflect a nearby strike, and the energy pulse from the shield knocked the attacker back into Jarek's path. The giant alien stumbled but smiled, impressed. "This human, he is teaching us something new," Jarek muttered. Lyra stayed at the edge of the battlefield, directing small teams of aliens to follow Ethan's lead. "Move to the sides, protect the engineers, watch the humans," she shouted. The attackers were strong, but the defenders now had a clear strategy. The shield absorbed strike after strike, energy flowing along its surface and storing the force of each hit. Ethan released small bursts at key moments, pushing attackers back and creating openings for the humans to strike safely. The attackers were confused. They had never seen a defense so strong, so controlled, and so clever. A large alien with 4 arms tried to swing past the shield to strike the humans behind. Ethan twisted the shield, blocking the strike and sending the energy back. The alien fell backward. Surprised. The humans behind Ethan moved quickly to take the opening, using small weapons to push back attackers without exposing themselves. Minutes passed, but Ethan did not tire. He moved carefully, thinking faster than the attackers. Each swing, each attack, each movement was calculated. Humans were smaller than the aliens, but their minds were faster. They adapted to every situation. Lyra moved closer to the action, guiding the humans and small aliens. She had never seen anything like this. Humans were not strong physically, but their thinking made them deadly. They were unpredictable. They were survival experts. The attackers regrouped and tried a new strategy. They used energy projectiles from above, firing down at the humans behind the shield. Ethan tilted the shield upward, absorbing the attacks and protecting his team. Sparks flew as the shield hummed, absorbing and releasing energy in controlled bursts. Jarek roared as he fought alongside Ethan. "I still do not understand it," he shouted. "How can a human control so much power?" Ethan did not answer. He focused on the battlefield, adjusting the shield, guiding his team, and creating openings. Each movement protected the humans and smaller aliens, while keeping the attackers off balance. The shield had become more than a defense, it was a weapon of strategy. Lyra noticed the attackers faltering. They had never faced an opponent who could block, protect, and counterattack all at once. Their swords and energy blasts were strong, but they could not break through the shield. Confusion spread among them. Humans had changed the rules of the fight, and the attackers did not know how to respond. Varkon, observing from the station control, spoke quietly to the council. "Humans, they are not what we assumed. They survive, not because of strength, but because of thinking. They are dangerous." Ethan led his team forward, moving like a wave. The shield absorbed attacks from every side. Energy pulses knocked attackers back, and humans followed safely, striking when openings appeared. Slowly, the attackers began to retreat. They could not penetrate the shield, and every strategy Ethan anticipated was countered. By the end of the battle, the field was quiet. The humans and small aliens were safe. The attackers had been pushed back, some wounded, some confused. Ethan lowered the shield, breathing steadily. He looked at the humans behind him. They were alive, uninjured, and stronger in spirit. Lyra approached him, her scales glinting in the light. Ethan nodded. "It is not just the shield," he said. "It is how we think. Humans survive because we do not follow blindly. We adapt, we protect, and we question what everyone assumes is true." Jarek shook his head in disbelief. "I do not like it," he said. "It is strange. But it works. I admit it. Humans fight differently, and it makes them strong." The council arrived on the field, silent but observing. Varkon looked at Ethan carefully. "You have proven yourself," he said finally. "Humans are not weak. They are unpredictable, creative, and capable of changing the outcome of battles. Your thinking has saved lives today." Ethan lowered the shield completely and nodded. "Humans survive," he said. "We use what we have. We protect each other. That is our strength." The humans behind him cheered quietly. They had followed his lead and seen the result. Their small size no longer mattered. The shield had proven that thinking differently could save lives and change the course of a fight. Lyra stayed close, still amazed. "I cannot believe it." she said. I thought humans were weak. Now I see. Humans are strong in ways no alien can match. Ethan smiled faintly. Strength is not always about muscle or size, he said. It is about using your mind, working together, and protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The day ended with the humans gaining new respect across the station. The shield had done more than block attacks, it had changed how aliens saw humanity. No longer weak, no longer simple. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and vital. Ethan looked at the battlefield one last time. The war would come again, but now he knew humans were ready. Not just to survive, but to lead in ways no one expected. The shield was only the beginning. The day after the battle, the shipyard was quiet. The attackers had retreated, leaving the defenders to repair damage and care for the wounded. Humans moved carefully through the field, checking their tools, supplies, and the shield. Ethan Cole stood in the middle, the shield leaning against his shoulder. He was tired, but his mind was alert. The shield had worked perfectly. It had saved lives and changed the course of the fight. Lyra approached him, her orange scales dimmed from the heat of battle. You were amazing yesterday, she said. No alien could have done what you did. The shield? It changed everything. Ethan nodded. It is not just the shield, he said. It is how we think. Humans do not follow what others do. We adapt. We protect. We survive. That is our strength. Other humans and small aliens gathered around. They had seen what the shield could do, and they now understood the truth. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and essential in battle. For the first time, they did not feel weak or small. Jarek stepped forward, looking at the shield with a mixture of awe and disbelief. I will admit, he said slowly, humans fight in a way I do not understand. But it works. You saved many lives, and I cannot ignore that. You have our respect. The council arrived soon after. Varkon and several other leaders walked across the field, observing the repairs and the humans. His expression was serious, but there was a hint of approval in his eyes. He stopped in front of Ethan. You have proven yourself human, Varkon said. Your shield and your thinking saved lives yesterday. You have shown that humans are not weak. They are unpredictable, creative, and capable of leading when others fail. Ethan straightened. Thank you, he said. Humans survive because we do not only rely on strength. We think, we plan, and we protect. That is what makes us strong. Lyra stepped forward, smiling faintly. I still do not understand all of it, she said. But I know this. Humans are not just fighters. They are thinkers, innovators, and allies we cannot ignore. You have shown us a new way to fight. Other aliens began to nod, murmuring their agreement. Even those who had been skeptical during the training demonstrations had seen the results firsthand. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were respected. Ethan looked at the humans behind him. They had followed his lead in battle, survived, and proved their worth. Their faces were tired, but proud. He knew that the shield had done more than defend, it had inspired trust, unity, and confidence. The council made a formal decision. Additional shields would be built, using Ethan's design as the model. Humans would take leadership roles in defense strategy, not just manual labor. They would be recognized as essential members of the coalition, capable of changing the tide of battle with creativity and courage. As the orders were announced, Ethan quietly returned to the shield. He checked the energy conduits, adjusted the balance, and made small improvements. Even after all they had achieved, he knew the shield could be stronger. There was always room for better ideas, better solutions. Humans did not settle for what worked. They asked how it could be improved. Lyra watched him, still amazed. You are always thinking, she said. "Even after saving everyone, you want more. Humans, they never stop." And Ethan smiled faintly. "That is how we survive," he said. "We do not wait for instructions. We ask questions, look for solutions, and protect those who cannot protect themselves. Thinking is our weapon." The human engineers began gathering around, discussing ways to improve the shield, adding small upgrades, and testing energy channels. The aliens started observing, curious to learn. Slowly, barriers between species were breaking down. Humans had earned respect not through force alone, but through intelligence, innovation, and courage. Jarek shook his head again. "I do not understand humans," he said. "You are small, but your minds, they are powerful. You fight differently, and it works. I will not forget this." Varkon approached once more, addressing all present. "Today marks a new era," he said. "Humans are no longer underestimated. They are not just participants. They are leaders, thinkers, and allies we must respect. Their methods are unconventional, but they are effective. Let this be remembered." Humans cheered quietly. For the first time, they felt true pride. Their small size and physical weakness no longer mattered. Their minds, courage, and ability to think differently were recognized across the station and the coalition. Ethan watched the crowd and felt a quiet satisfaction. The shield had done more than block attacks. It had proven that humans could change the way others thought, could protect lives, and could survive against impossible odds. It was a simple tool, yes, but it represented something much bigger. Human ingenuity, adaptability, and heart. Lyra stepped closer and spoke softly. "I think this is only the beginning," she said. "Humans, they will change many things we thought we knew. They fight differently, and it makes them strong." Ethan nodded. "It is only the beginning," he said. "There will be more battles, more challenges, but humans will survive. We will think, adapt, and protect. That is what we do." As the sun set over the shipyard, casting long shadows across the metal floors, Ethan leaned on the shield and looked at the horizon. Ships were returning from repairs, crews were preparing for the next mission, and the humans walked among them with new confidence. The council left the field, the aliens returning to their work, but the memory of the shield and the human who led it would not be forgotten. Across the coalition, whispers spread about the small human who had changed the rules of battle. Ethan looked down at the shield, smiling faintly. It had been a tool, yes, but also a symbol. A symbol that humans were not just weak, small creatures. They were thinkers, protectors, and unpredictable allies. They could survive, lead, and inspire respect in the galaxy. And as the night settled over the station, Ethan thought of new ideas. The shield had worked, but there were more ways to protect, more ways to fight smarter. Humans would continue to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and find solutions no one else could. The galaxy had learned something new. Underestimate humans at your own risk. And Ethan, standing with the shield by his side, knew that humanity's story had only just begun.